Atlantis, Valhalla, Taylor Swift's soul. These are all mythical things which have clearly never existed. But what about those places mentioned in fiction and folklore which are genuinely real? Those based on actual areas that you could go and visit today. From the site of a famous battle to astonishing biblical and magical locations, here are 7 mythical places that really exist. Number 7, Troy. Today, the only place you'll find a Trojan horse is your stepdad's laptop after he visited all those sites he promised your mom he knew nothing about. But the mythological Trojan horse from where these viruses get their name was just as sneaky, albeit nowhere near as gross. The story of the Trojan War tells how the people of Troy were tricked into allowing the invading Greek army entrance into their city whilst they hid inside a giant wooden horse presented as a gift. It's believed that this story is an elaboration on an actual siege that took place involving a horse-shaped battering ram. So whilst the Trojan horse probably never existed, the city of Troy certainly did. For centuries, Troy was thought to have been just as mythical as the horse used to enter it. But in the 1800s, its ruins were located in modern-day Turkey and are now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. After discovery, it was split into 13 different areas representing the many different ages the city existed through, with Troy 1 dating back to 3000 BC and Troy 9 built as recently as 500 AD. Troy 7A is the purported site where the siege of Troy took place, but the only Trojans you'll likely find there today are those tiny little rubber ones. Number 6, Camelot. The legend of King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table have long been examined for real historical links. And whilst records of him hunting down dragons and being BFFs with a wizard may not be entirely accurate, there is a lot of evidence that King Arthur was based on a real British king from the 5th and 6th centuries, and that his mythical Castle Camelot was actually based in southeast England. As far back as 1542, the people of Shropshire believed Cadbury Castle was the original Camelot because the castle's former name was Camelot, which is pretty close if you ask me. Today, all that remains above ground is an 18-acre hill fort. But archaeological examinations of the area have shown it was a site of major activity around the 4th century BC. Evidence indicates this medieval settlement was occupied by a major British ruler and their forces, making it the leading contender for the site of Britain's greatest mythological king. So, if you're visiting Shropshire soon, keep your eyes peeled for a sword stuck in a rock, because if you manage to pull it out, you may end up ruling Britain. And right now, nobody else seems to want that job. In at 5, the Fountain of Youth. If you're getting a few wrinkles, you may be better off investing in some moisturizer and staying out of the sun, rather than taking a trip to the Fountain of Youth. Because whilst this place really does exist, its age-reversing abilities are about as effective as the leather jacket comb-over combination. The Fountain of Youth myth was created by Greek writer Herodotus in the 5th century BC, but it was the Spanish explorer, one Ponce de Leon, who claimed he had found it in modern-day St. Augustine, Florida. You know, that place that's totally overrun with old people who definitely don't look like they've used the Fountain of Youth. Ponce de Leon was told by local Native Americans that the fountain was actually located in Bimini in the Bahamas. But that was probably just their way of trying to get rid of him. And after ignoring this misdirection, he proclaimed a site on the Florida coast as the real location of the Fountain of Youth. Today, you can visit this site for a small fee and taste some of the local mineral water for a small fee. Then you can expel this water into a urinal for a small fee before leaving and telling all your friends what a crock of crap this place is. Yeah, but that part is free. 4. The Garden of Eden. In the world's most famous book about a disappointing hippie son disowned by his straight-laced, overbearing father, the Bible mentions a magical place called the Garden of Eden, where amongst many delicious treats and exotic animals lay the Tree of Knowledge. You know, that one where that jerk-off snake convinced Eve to snarf down an apple and ruin things for everyone? Just smoke a cigarette, Eve, and lay off the apples already. Now, whether or not you believe in the amazing things that happened here doesn't matter. Because although most scholars agree the Garden of Eden was a mythological creation, many also believe it was probably based on an actual region of Mesopotamia at the head of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. The Bible itself describes these rivers as being close by in the book of Genesis. And do you know where this supposed location of the cradle of civilization is today? Iraq, Iran, and Armenia. Oh, goody. Let's pay a visit. And will somebody please bring some apples just in case? In at 3, the entrance to hell. In our second example from Greek mythology is this place, the Mavroneri River, which is located near Nona Kris in the Ardiwanya Mountains of Arcadia on the Greek Peloponnesian Peninsula. Got that? Good. This river is believed to be the inspiration for the famous river Styx, which was the entrance to the Greek netherworld. Its waters were thought to be corrosive, poisonous, and responsible for killing many famous Greek leaders. And this is where the link with the Mavroneri River comes from. Also known as Black Water, the river flows from deep within the Peloponnesian Mountains and contains high concentrations of calichyemicin, a toxin produced by limestone inhabiting bacteria. This toxin causes horrific pain in your internal organs and leads to fever, voice loss, coma, and death before it kills you. So whilst you and I can see why the river Styx would draw upon this toxic water for inspiration, Alexander the Great sure couldn't, because there's a strong case blaming the water of the Mavroneri for killing one of the world's greatest ever conquerors. Act 2. Gotham City. Okay, so I may be stretching the boundaries of what is considered mythological here, but what are King Arthur and Jesus, if not old-timey Batman clones? As a relatively recent cultural creation, the Batman universe understandably contains some buildings and places that were based on real-world locations, and many of you probably live in one of them. Hopefully not the first one, though. You've probably already seen the Danvers State Hospital in Massachusetts, the spooky old sanitarium which inspired Arkham Asylum. But did you know much of Gotham City was based on some of the more sinister areas of 1930s New York City, such as Chinatown, Soho, and Greenwich Village? Interestingly, many comic creators have referred to Gotham as New York at nighttime, whereas Superman's fictional residence Metropolis was supposed to represent New York City during the day. New York City acquired the nickname of Gotham more than 120 years before Batman was created, after the author Washington Irving compared its inhabitants to those of the village of Gotham in England's county of Nottinghamshire. Now, you may recognize Nottinghamshire as the site of the Robin Hood legend, which leads me to our final entry. Number 1. Sherwood Forest. This may seem like a dumb entry to people from the UK who know that Robin Hood's home is a real place, but you gotta remember two things. First of all, the UK has a lot of crazy legends, and sometimes it's hard to remember what's real and what's made up. And secondly, less than half of all Americans own a passport. We don't know squat about what's outside our own backyard. Some people probably think Hogwarts is a real school and that Benedict Cumberbatch is a fictional James Bond villain. So occasionally, we have to cover the basics. For those of you who don't know the legend, Robin Hood was a heroic outlaw in English folklore who stalked his way through Sherwood Forest, robbing from the rich to give to the poor, along with his band of merry men. He became a popular figure in England's late medieval period. And whilst some people do believe the story of Robin Hood's charitable mugging escapades may have actually been based on a real person, what is certain is that Sherwood Forest is definitely real because it still exists today. In the East Midlands of the UK, Sherwood Forest Nature Reserve covers 4 square kilometers of land and has been officially designated as a royal hunting forest since 1066. So whilst you may not see any Kevin Costner lookalikes bounding around the place on horseback stealing from the rich to give to the poor, one day you might just see the Queen doing the exact opposite.